Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us this week on the Bison Basketball Show. I'm Brian Shawn from the Nodak Insurance Company practice facility. Only a handful of games remain for both the North Dakota State men's and women's basketball team. The Bison men finally on their home floor for their first home game since November 11th, hosting Eastern Washington as a part of the Big Sky Summit League Challenge Series. It was the first ever meeting between the two programs. Rocky Cruiser carried the Bison offense early on, scoring 12 of the first 14 points of the game, including this lay-in. He finished with 14 points on the night. Later in the first half, Vinny Shaheed pulls up in transition for three. He was a perfect 3 of 3 from outside the arc and scored a team-high 20 points. Jesse Hunt hit a couple of triples of his own in the closing minutes of the opening half to keep the Eagles close. He had a double-double with 11 points and 11 rebounds. Freshman Jackson Notek made his first appearance of the season and scored his first ever collegiate basket, hitting a 3 of his own to extend the lead to 8. NDSU led it 31-25 at halftime. In the second half, on the ball rotation, Jared Samuelson left wide open for another triple. He chipped in with 10 points as NDSU hit 10 threes overall. Jacob Davison exploded for Eastern Washington in the second half, scoring 23 points, hitting 10 of 15 shots in the final 20 minutes to give his team the lead briefly. But North Dakota State able to get some big buckets down the stretch from Dengu, scoring 10 of his 18 points in the final 5 minutes of the game as North Dakota State maintained the lead. And then with under 2 minutes to go, Chris Quayle able to find Tyree Edey for the lay-in underneath as the Bison hold on for the 74-67 victory, improving to 2-0 on their home floor. NDSU did a lot of damage from the line, hitting 24 of 27 free throws.
It definitely was a big win. You know, we've had a pretty rough stretch here the past couple games, past 4 games. We've been on the road for about a month here. We haven't had a home game since November. And so it was very important to come here and get this win and to be aggressive. There's a lot of different ways we can line up, and there's still guys injured and hurt. And so the key thing is to just try to find other guys that can step up.
We've been saying we just want to play with energy at home, you know, as much as we can, get our crowd into it. But, you know, really get that energy from our bench and our guys on court to kind of push that into our defense and into our offense. This whole week before our next game is going to be huge to get our legs back, and then go out there again on Saturday and hopefully get another W.
We now welcome in NDSU men's basketball coach Dave Richman to talk about the Bison's victory over Eastern Washington. And Dave, it's felt like forever since we've even had a home game here at the Shack, and for your guys to finally get back on your home floor and for you to get a chance to coach in front of your hometown fans, that feel good.
Yeah, it felt great, and to get the W on top of it is even better, obviously. I think it's 27 days since we've been home, and not only that, it's been where we've been and who we've played and how we've gotten there. It's been a process. There's make no mistake about it, but it was really good to get back here in the Shack and get back in front of our friends and get that monkey off the back a little bit, because we've seen it. We know we have a good product, and it's just about getting back into a rhythm here.
Yeah, it's been a grind, I think, for your guys, not only the travel, but playing on the amount of games. You got back from Iowa State Tuesday and had to get ready for this one right away. But I think the guys showed enough energy in that second half to, I'm sure, make you pleased on how the guys finished the game.
I think it was just enough, and that's okay, you know, and that's what we need right now. And you could tell, even just being back, like to your point, we just got back Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening, and you're still dragging a little bit. You're still trying to pick up the pieces. You've been gone for so much school that you're trying to get, you know, some of that still on your mind a little bit with finals week round in the corner too. And so it was great to get the W, and I think this coming week too, of having a week off until we play Missouri State on Saturday, is much needed for our program, for our guys.
Yeah, all of a sudden you look at the schedule, there's only 3 non-conference games left, and then it's Summit League time. Is it kind of hard to believe we're at that point already?
It is, but it's also exciting. You know, I mean, that's what it's all about, is getting into that Summit League play. And for us to use these opportunities, we've had plenty of adversity, Brian, in the last 30-plus days, and that adversity builds character, and that'll put us in a position to where we need to be come, like I always talk about, the end of December, January, February, and early March.
We saw a variety of different lineups in this game against Eastern Washington. We got a chance to see Jackson Notek for the first time. Talented freshman, tall guy, can shoot the ball really well. What kind of led the decision to finally kind of pull the red shirt off and give him his opportunity?
Well, I think it was a combination of a bunch of things. Some guys that we need to make sure are growing in our program. We have some injuries right now. But it's also about Jackson too. Here's a kid that came in and took him a little bit to adjust, and he really has adjusted extremely well. His body looks great. He's done a tremendous job with Jason, and he's a kid that's got a lot of confidence and swagger. And you can see he came out and pulled the one, and then he made the second one, and his third one looked really good too. And I think he's a kid that'll get more and more comfortable as the season goes on.
I know one thing, Dave, that you wanted to really focus on, you'll continue to focus on, is trying to improve defensively with various lineups. And I think we saw a step in that tonight. I think you made Eastern Washington take some pretty tough shots in this game.
I hope so, and the guys, I know they hope too. You know, we went back to Thursday's practice here before we played Eastern Washington tonight, and we only had 2 balls in the gym, and that was because we need to get better on the defensive end, and you earn your victories getting stops. And against Eastern Washington, we didn't do a very good job in the first half of taking care of the ball, and I thought that led to some of their offense as well too. But our staples are defending, rebounding, and taking care of the ball, and we need to make sure we get back and focus on those as we go forward.
Take me through the next week and a half. What do you do? How do you manage the next week and a half with your guys before South Dakota will be here for the opener?
Yeah, I think it's really important as far as we got to grow as a basketball team like we always do. But there's some big finals coming up for these kids, and they need to make sure and take care of business that way as well. And so we'll, like anything, we'll walk the fine line, make sure we're doing both at the highest level we can.
Hard to believe we're almost at conference point, Dave. Thanks as always for the time. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. We appreciate it.
Dave Richman joining us here on the Bison Basketball Show. Stay with us. Maren Walseth and company also playing a home game against Milwaukee this past weekend. We'll catch up with Maren and check out the Bison women's game against the Panthers after this timeout.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by Nodak Insurance Company and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Hello and welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show here from the Nodak Insurance Company practice facility. The North Dakota State women's basketball team back on their home floor for their final non-conference home game of the season before league play begins at the end of the month, hosting Milwaukee. It would be a low-scoring game between the Panthers and Bison. North Dakota State did get off to a good start offensively, scoring 12 points in the first 4 minutes. Riley Nudell hit 4 threes in the game, playing 37 minutes. Michelle Geisler-Rova's looks were limited in the first half, but she did shake free for a couple of threes and scored 13 points for the Bison, playing all 40 minutes. Marina Fernandez also played the entire game and came up with a couple of steals, one leading to a lay-in on the other end to tie the game at 25. She also had a game-high 11 rebounds. Milwaukee would score a couple of buckets late in the second quarter, Jamie Wright pulling up in the lane, the Panthers taking a 29-25 lead at halftime. In the second half, Tyra Spencer would give NDSU the lead, stepping around a screen and knocking down the three. She added 7 points. Alyssa Fisher came off the bench and hit 2 big triples for Milwaukee as the Panthers held on to a slim lead midway through the fourth quarter. Under 2 minutes to go in the game, Nudell would pull the Bison within a basket as she hits the open jumper. She had a game-high 16 points. But just seconds later, Michaela Schmelzer knocking down her only basket of the game, a three-pointer to secure the victory as the Panthers win it 57-55. Each team shot 37% from the floor, with Milwaukee's bench outscoring North Dakota State's 32-2.
I'm so proud of our team because last game we came short because we played hard for 30 minutes and not 40. And we talked about that we need to play hard for 40 minutes and bring the effort for 40 minutes. And I think that's what we did today.
Just in practice and in games, we've been becoming more consistent. And like this week we played the full 40 minutes. So I think we're going in the right direction.
We now welcome in NDSU women's coach Maren Walseth to talk about the Bison women's contest against Milwaukee. Hard-fought game, tough game. I thought the 3 kids that had to play 40 minutes in that contest played really, really well. Marina Fernandez, Michelle Geisler-Rova, Tyra Spencer, all out there until the bitter end. And, hey, your kids fought. It had to be encouraging to see that kind of effort from everybody.
I was very proud of the way that the Bison played on Sunday, absolutely. Like you said, more than one kid had to play a full 40 minutes. And when you talk about the things that we can control, our effort and our communication, I thought we did a superb job of that for the full 40 minutes, which then gives you an opportunity to be in the basketball game. 2 points, obviously you'd love to be on the other side of that, but 2 points, that comes down to a basketball going down and popping out. And so for us to give that sort of effort and only come up 2 points short, I was very proud of the effort that we gave.
I think you've been waiting, Maren, for a 40-minute defensive effort like you saw in this game. And I think this team has shown maybe what it's capable of on that end of the floor. That's got to be encouraging building forward to the last 3 non-conference games before Summer League play gets started.
Certainly, and the week that we had with the dead week of school and a couple more days off, individual workouts, the growth that we demonstrated in 1 week, looking forward to doing that again 2 weeks in a row. I mean, we're a far better basketball team now than we were this time last week.
You still have the road trip to go to Valparaiso and then 2 games in Florida. What would you like to see improved? You're going to get a little help now with Sevilla Jovalovic eligible to play moving forward, so that at least takes some minutes off some people.
I think that's big from a rotation perspective. We've got a lot of kids that have logged a lot of minutes already, and so working Sophia in and then allowing others to get 2-3 minutes here around a media break or around a quarter break will definitely help their legs and their flow of the game. But going in for our last 3 road games, last 3 non-conference road games, we're looking to continue to go forward. I think we made a huge step in the Milwaukee game, and that same step will be needed at Valpo and then in Florida.
So for your team, where you're at right now, I don't know if you even really knew what to expect only having so few bodies. I think you've handled it, managed it as well as you could have. But going forward, as you try to improve and try to get better, what are some things that you're going to be focusing on as the coach with this group over the next couple of weeks?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is continuing to value the possession. And somebody like Tyra Spencer is understanding her role and understanding when to distribute and when to look to shoot. So continuing that, and now adding Sophia in is just another scorer, somebody who can score, but it's how do you do that? But managing those possessions and valuing each possession is something that I think we still can improve upon.
All right, 3 more road games. Good luck on this next road trip when you head to Valpo and head to Florida, and we'll see you after Christmas. It's going to be league play. Can you believe it?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, we wait all summer, and then it goes, and then before you know it, yes, it's Christmas, and then the Summit League play starts.
All right, Maren, thanks for joining us this week.
Thank you.
Stay with us. More to come after the break. Greg Stemen, our MidcoSN analyst, stops by to chat about the first half of the season for both the Bison men and women. That's after this. Welcome back to the Bison Basketball Show. We are now joined by MidcoSN analyst Greg Stemen to talk about the Bison men's and women's first halves of the season, and conference play right around the corner, Greg. Kind of hard to believe we're at that point. Let's start with the Bison men. Certainly some ups, some downs, a lot of long road trips. What do you make of North Dakota State after the first handful of games this season?
Well, still learning, and it's, people get tired of hearing that at times, but at the same time, that's what the pre-conference season is for, and they certainly went out and tested themselves. They go on the road early to a New Mexico State team. They go out to Gonzaga, who at that time is the #1 team in the country. East Tennessee State, they went to 2 days before they were at Gonzaga. So they've put themselves through the ringer when it comes to exposing weaknesses, finding out what things they need to improve on, and they've kind of come out of that struggling defensively. And at the same time, that's one thing that Dave Richman and this staff can do a very good job of, is they can find a way to tighten things up on the defensive end. They're going to have to do that. And then define some more roles offensively, and they've got a few more games to get that done before they get into conference.
We've seen a bunch of different rotations already, a bunch of different lineups for Dave Richman. I think they're trying to find the lineups and units that work best together before they hit conference play. We've seen Vinny Shaheed really take over as kind of the go-to guy for this team over the last few weeks. What do you make of him and some of the other newcomers that have meshed with other players that are returning from this team?
Well, I think what you really like about Vinny Shaheed is as a newcomer, he was voted a captain by his teammates. And sometimes the off-the-court stuff isn't followed up with the on-the-court stuff. But what you see with Vinny Shaheed is he's a true leader on the floor as well. He's a guy that's not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid to take the big shot. He's not afraid to set his teammate up to take the big shot. And he'll do the best he can to set the tone defensively. So you love to see that out of your point guard. So Vinny Shaheed certainly earned what he's gotten. What he's got to do now is get the rest of his teammates to buy into what it takes to get things done on the defensive end. And then how do we become more efficient offensively and get the ball into the hands of the right player at the right time in the right spot.
Let's switch gears to the Bison women a little bit. A team that has been close now over the last couple of weeks. A late lead against UMKC slips away. A rock fight against Wisconsin, Milwaukee. A team that, likes to muck it up a little bit. The depth, I think, is caught up with North Dakota State, but the Bison have still been very, very competitive here over the last few weeks, and still a chance to get better, getting Sophia Jovalovic into the lineup for an extra body here moving forward for the final 3 non-conference games.
You make a great point about Jovalovic. If they can get another body, it takes basically about 30 minutes of game time off of those other bodies that are getting pretty tired, pretty worn out. If you have 8 healthy bodies that you can rotate, it makes a huge difference. It makes a big difference over 7. And the other thing that Devalovich is going to bring is she's a primary ball handler. She can be a decision maker. She can not only improve the team just by her presence, but she can improve the play of her teammates by getting them the ball in the right places where they can be successful. So you like to see that type of an addition. The other thing, the last thing that they have to do is fall in love with what kept them in the game against Milwaukee. That is strong, sound half-court defense and valuing the basketball, not giving possessions away. If you do those two things, you literally give yourself a chance against 90% of the teams in the country, and that's what North Dakota State has to focus on moving forward.
Very quickly, for this unit to move forward, we've seen them play so much better at home, what you would expect potentially once they get some bodies back, Macy Quillbang into that mix. This is a team that I think could maybe surprise some people in the Summit League once they put it all together.
Well, you talk about doing, they play well at home. The things that travel well are good half-court defense. You can defend anywhere, regardless of what the arena or what the crowd's like, and valuing the basketball. If you do those two things and do them well, you give yourself a chance to be successful. They have to buy into that.
All right, Greg, thanks as always for the time.
Thanks. Always great to be here.
Greg Stemen joining us here on the Bison Basketball Show. Stay with us. We come back and go one-on-one with Junior Guard Chris Quayle. That's after this. Welcome back to the show. After one season of junior college in Wyoming, Chris Quayle joined the North Dakota State men's basketball team, playing in all 32 games as a sophomore. This week we go one-on-one with the junior from Riverton, Wyoming. Back for more one-on-one, joined by junior guard Chris Quayle, who came here by the way of Wyoming and then community college. Let's talk about your road first of all. In Wyoming, grew up in a rural state, much like North Dakota, but even probably more rural. You guys also had some long road trips in high school, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think our closest conference game was 2 hours, so used to long trips.
But a lot of time on the bus with your dad. Your dad was your high school coach. What was it like being a coach's kid?
I think it was good. I mean, getting pushed extra and being held accountable to the highest standard and kind of being used as an example for my other teammates and just having to do things right all the time to be a good example.
Probably tough to get away from the game. Maybe that's a good thing though, right?
No, it was good. I mean, we don't have a YMCA or a rec center or anything, so if he wasn't the coach, I mean, I couldn't get into a gym, so it was nice that he was. I could get in the gym whenever I wanted, so.
And then a lot of time in the driveway, I'm guessing too, right?
Yeah, the driveway.
When was the first time having a coach's kid? When's the last time you remember having a ball in your hands? Do you remember playing really, really young growing up?
Yeah, ever since I can remember, always have been playing. So,
what was the biggest thing as you were growing up that you were taught that was the most important thing for you developmentally?
Probably just making the right plays, making the smart plays. I like to try and be a little fancy when I was growing up, and then just from watching Steve Nash, but just being taught. The fancy plays aren't always the best ones. Make smart plays that are just good plays, just good basketball plays. So,
Wyoming is a small state. A lot of people probably don't regard it as a huge basketball state, but you were named Mr. Basketball back in 2015. What kind of honor was that for you to receive that as a statewide honor?
I mean, it was cool. It was something that when my sister was in high school, she was 8 years older than me. I remember going to her All-Star game and seeing the Mr. Basketball Award be given out and just kind of setting that as a goal for something that I wanted to achieve, and then just working all the time to try and get there, and then finally getting it was pretty cool.
And then you go to junior college, but you actually kind of gray-shirted to save yourself a year. What went into that decision on going to junior college and then trying to get yourself ready for Division I basketball?
Yeah, that was more my physical development. I think out of high school I was 6'3", 155. And then,
so what are you now, just for reference?
I'm 6'5", 190 now.
So pretty big difference.
Yeah, definitely. A big part of that thanks to Coach Miller pushing us in the weight room. So, but yeah, mainly just to get a little bit stronger and bigger, develop, and be ready to play the college game.
And when you get here, there is a transition period as you're getting used to Division I. What was the biggest thing skill development-wise that you had to learn?
I think part of it was still the physicality of it at D1 compared to JUCO and the quickness. So I think that's definitely a jump. Anytime you go up in a level, people get faster and stronger. So that's probably the main one.
All right, Chris Quayle, all the way from Wyoming, joining us one-on-one. Quayle missed some time this season due to a sore back, but is averaging 6 points and 22 minutes a game since returning to action. Stay with us here on the Bison Basketball Show. We take a look at the upcoming schedule and a look at the league standings.
The Bison Basketball Show on Midco Sports Network is presented by NODAC Insurance Company and Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
Back to wrap up this episode of the Bison Basketball Show from the NODAC Insurance Company practice facility. Let's take a look ahead at the upcoming schedule, starting with the Bison men. NDSU will host Missouri State on Saturday night on Midco Sports Network before hitting the road to finish up one final non-conference road game at Montana. The Bison then host Northland in the final game before Christmas on December 19th. That game, too, will be seen on Midco Sports Network. Then it's time for Summit League play as both South Dakota and Fort Wayne come to town to open things up just before New Year's. The NDSU women will hit the road for 3 more non-conference games, starting with Valparaiso on Sunday afternoon. Then the team heads to DeLand, Florida for 2 games in the Hatter Classic against San Francisco and host Stetson. From there, it's time for league play as both Fort Wayne and USD come to town. Both contests will be televised live on MidcoSN. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you after the new year. So long.